Hello America, this is Call of Duty Goddess. Today is April 7, 2016. I have an article here from Refugee Resettlement Watch titled Announcement from U.S. Embassy in Jordan. Syrian refugee surge to America is now underway. Dated April 6, 2016. Ann Corcoran always keeps up with this stuff, and I don't know when that lady sleeps. Thank you so much, Ann. Let's continue. Obama is reducing the screening time of 18 to 24 months to 3 months for the refugee program. The Obama administration is way behind in resettling the 10,000 Syrians it has promised would be coming to your towns this fiscal year. That's by September 30th. Well, here comes the news. Since October last year, 1,000 Syrian refugees have moved from Jordan to the U.S. The resettlement surge hopes to increase that number tenfold. A resettlement surge center opened in Amman in February to meet President Barack Obama's target of resettling 10,000 Syrians to the United States by September 30th. Every day, the center interviews some 600 Syrian refugees. The temporary processing center for the surge operation will run until April 28th. The regional refugee coordinator at the U.S. Embassy in Amman, Gina Kassim, said that while the 10,000 target applies to Syrian refugees living around the world, the majority will be resettled from Jordan. The 10,000 is a floor and not a ceiling. It is possible to increase the number, she told reporters. So 10,000 is not the limit. It's probably going to be more, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go to another article by Ann Corcoran, dated April 2nd, 2016. The State Department and other agencies involved in vetting Syrian refugees say, however, that they are taking steps to speed up the process. These include creating a new pathway for Syrians with relatives in the United States, though the State Department has not elaborated on what that pathway would look like. Additionally, the State Department announced on Wednesday it would be committing another $10 million to the UNHCR to help with refugee resettlement. We expect Syrian refugee arrivals to the U.S. to increase steadily throughout the fiscal year. And let's go check out the map to see where they are at so far. This is from October 2015 to March 2016. Okay, so looking at that, we see the map there. Let's move on to a Fox News politics article titled Government Program Would Fly in Central American Children to Join Parents in the U.S. Dated April 5th, 2016. Now what we're going to do is read between the lines. There is a little video clip with this article, so let's check that out first. And to cut through the BS, whenever he says Central American children, let's just put in Syrian refugees, okay? That way we can cut through the BS much easier.
The story of a little-known, barely promoted Obama administration effort to bring more Central American immigrants into the country. You're not only paying for the trip, but also for much of their living expenses here in the U.S. Correspondent Peter Ducey has the expensive details.
Illegal immigrant children from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador walking into the U.S. It's so 2014. Now they get to fly for free.
When you look at this program, you have to wonder, why is there a border anyway?
That's right. A new State Department and DHS venture seeks to stop the surge of unaccompanied kids at the southern border and reunite families by letting parents who have any kind of legal status apply to have their kids picked up in Central America and put on a plane without paying a penny. Judicial Watch points out once these kids arrive, taxpayers also pick up the tab for education, food stamps, medical care, and living expenses.
Under this program, would be, quote, refugees. And refugees have access to government benefits that other illegal aliens don't.
The State Department says this is a safe, legal, and orderly alternative to the dangerous journey that some children are currently undertaking to the United States. And for that reason, the program has some support.
I think it's more humane and a good policy to make sure these children are not going to die being in such an unsafe place.
But others are worried about starting a system that ignores people attempting to immigrate the traditional way by waiting in line.
My gosh, what does the rule of law mean if you break the law to get here and then you get the government to help bring the rest of your family?
How much will all this cost? Good question.
The price tag? I don't know.
But
I don't know.
If she doesn't know, we won't know until the program is complete and the money has already been spent. And there's also no way to tell how many unaccompanied minors are actually minors, since this program is available for adults as old as 21 and many of their grown-up relatives. Lots of questions, very few answers in Foggy Bottom.
We'll keep asking. Peter, thank you.
So we are now at Refugee Council USA. And let's see what kind of special assistance these refugees receive. There's a private resettlement agency assistance. Refugees arriving in the U.S. are placed with one of the private resettlement agencies that have signed a cooperative agreement with the State Department. These agencies generally have local affiliates through the U.S. The affiliates are responsible for assuming that a core group of services are provided during the first 30 to 90 days after a refugee's arrival, including food, housing, clothing, employment services, follow-up medical care, and other necessary services. There are approximately 350 affiliates throughout the United States, and there's a little hyperlink there, which I clicked on. Let's check out these affiliates. Department of State, Bureau of Population, Refugees and Migration, Office of Admission, Refugee Processing Center Affiliate Directory. Now, I'm going to switch back here to the Refugee Council again before I show you this paper, because I believe that it's very important that you see that this is a private resettlement agency. And it's called Catholic Social Services, Catholic Charities Immigration Services. So, many of you probably already know this, but just in case you didn't, all of these private organizations are hiding under Christian names. They're hiding under a Christian veneer, when in fact that is not the case at all. They're calling themselves Lutheran Services, Christian Services, Interfaith Refugee and Immigration Ministry of the Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles. Please. And there are over 350 of them. International Rescue, Catholic Charities, Jewish Family and Children's Services. These are all private corporations. And let's just double check here to make sure I've got this right. I'm at Dun & Bradstreet, Lutheran Services of Colorado, 1600 Downing Street, Suite 600. Let's double check. Lutheran Family Services of Colorado, 1600 Downing Street, Suite 600. Now, you'll also notice this is Lutheran Social Services of Colorado, and there was Lutheran Family Services of Colorado at the same address. They are the same agency, I just called them, and the poor guy, very nice man, thinking he's doing the right thing. Of course, he is making a paycheck. He has no clue. He thinks that he's working for a nonprofit when in fact he isn't. We had a bit of a conversation. He ran around all over the place looking for his boss for me to talk to. When I told him that the place that he works for is on Dun & Bradstreet as a corporation, he didn't seem to understand that. And he was such a nice man that I told him, and I doubt if he paid any attention to me. But anyway, let's get back to the benefits that the refugees get. Public assistance. The Cash and Medical Assistance Program, also known as CMA, is part of the Division of Refugee Assistance at the Office of Refugee Resettlement. CMA reimburses states for 100% of services provided to refugees and other eligible persons, as well as associated administrative costs. Programs eligible for reimbursement include Refugee Cash Assistance, Refugee Medical Assistance, Unaccompanied Refugee Minors, minors being up to age 21. Of course, they get an education and they get employment benefits. All refugees are entitled to receive authorization for employment. Let me repeat that. All refugees are entitled to receive authorization for employment. They are protected by civil rights legislation and cannot be discriminated in the workplace. They are not eligible, however, to work for the federal government, except for the armed forces, until they become U.S. citizens. It's a good thing that the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and all that aren't actually the federal government, that they're private corporations. And let's move on to the immigration benefits there. Travel documents. Refugees are eligible to leave the U.S. for up to 1 year provided they have obtained a refugee travel document. Looks like they can go back and forth to countries. Adjustment of status. 1 year after arrival, refugees are eligible to adjust their status to permanent resident. Family reunification. Immediate family members of refugees have U.S. refugee status on a derivative basis. This is referred to as the Visa 93 procedure. That is, a spouse or any unmarried minor child of a refugee receives refugee status automatically, provided that the relationship existed prior to the entry of the refugee into the U.S. So, now that we know their benefits, let's go back to that video we saw with Fox News. They spoke of a State Department and DHS venture, that this refugee program was a State Department and DHS venture. So let's see what other kind of ventures that the Department of Homeland Security has gotten into lately. Well, we all know about this little venture, don't we? The 1.6 billion rounds of ammo for Homeland Security. Isn't that crazy? Why would the Department of Homeland Security be shipping in refugees? Possibly. Now, in a world that's not bizarro world that we live in, you would think logically that the DHS would be in charge of making sure the refugees are not jihadis. But since we live in the bizarro world that we do live in, I'm at Numbers USA at an article titled FBI Says There's No Way to Vet Incoming Syrian Refugees, dated January 7th, 2016. We don't have it under control, Mr. Michael Steinbeck, Assistant Director for the FBI, told the House Homeland Security Committee in February. Absolutely, we're doing the best we can. If I were to say we had it under control, then I would say I know of every single individual traveling. I don't. And I don't know every person there, and I don't know everyone coming back. So it's not even close to being under control. The chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, Representative Michael McCall, asked officials from DHS, FBI, and the National Counterterrorism Center if bringing in Syrian refugees pose a greater risk to Americans. Steinbeck responded, "Yes, I'm concerned. We'll have to go take a look at those lists and go through all of those intelligence holdings and be very careful to try and identify connections to foreign terrorist groups." Bizarro world. Hello. Last week, Representative McCall renewed the concern that ISIS wants to use the refugee crisis to sneak into Western countries. The president wants to surge thousands of Syrian refugees into the United States in spite of consistent intelligence community and federal law enforcement warnings that we do not have the intelligence needed to vet individuals from the conflict zone. We also know that ISIS wants to use refugee routes as cover to sneak operatives into the West, he said in a statement. And I've got to say, I've talked about ISIS, and I talked about how I feel about ISIS. I believe it was created by the CIA. Welcome to the USSA. With that being said, let's go over everything we just talked about. Syrian refugee surge to America is now underway. At least 10,000 Syrian refugees are coming from Jordan over to America. They have reduced the screening time from 18 to 24 months down to 3 months. We saw in this little video from Fox News that we're going to be flying them in. We also saw all of the assistance that they're going to get. They're going to be able to work right away. They're not going to be able to work for the federal government, but as we all know, if you watch my channel, our federal government is a private corporation. They wear 2 hats, so they can use that any way they want. We also found that the organizations that are shipping them in are private corporations that are operating under a veneer of charity services. For example, Christian church groups. And they are making money hand over fist. And we had found on Dun & Bradstreet that they are private corporations. FBI says there's no way to vet them. We can't forget about the 1.6 billion rounds of ammo for Homeland Security, though, can we? You do the math. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment below. This is Call of Duty Goddess signing off, and as always, I've got your 6.